host, not for possession, Narcissa Deville, and welcome to hell. Before I get into this video, I want to make a blanket statement that some of the things that I discuss in this video may be deeply disturbing and or triggering to people, so kind of viewer discretion is advised. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, and in many ways, we've made a considerable amount of progress. We've gone from a place where the police were working against us to where in many cities the police have rainbow decals on their car, rainbow badges, and they're a big part of pride. Rainbow clothing can be purchased for a nominal fee at almost every store, from Target to Hot Topic and even Converse, where I got these. Yes, they have a little rainbow at the bottom. I have no shame. Pride as a concept has become a commodified venture in which many companies want to throw their support behind the ever-lucrative pink dollar. But when Pride becomes a commercial venture with huge corporate sponsors, we lose sight of why Pride was necessary in the first place. In an era where gay marriage is legalized, one has to wonder, do we even still really need Pride? In order to properly talk about where we are, we first need to discuss where we came from, and it's impossible to talk about queer history without first talking about Stonewall, the riots which kickstarted this movement. Stonewall was hardly the first riot of its kind. In fact, in 1966, there was a riot at the Compton's cafeteria in San Francisco. If you haven't heard of it, you might want to check out the documentary Screaming Queens on Amazon. I highly recommend it. The Compton's cafeteria was a diner wherein trans sex workers and drag queens could come together after long nights of work and just relax. In a hot August night in 1966, one trans woman was arrested by the police and decided to resist arrest by pouring hot coffee on the officer. What ensued was trans women and drag queens coming together to fight off the police. Stonewall has similar origins, although the history there is a little bit murkier. The commonly accepted narrative suggests that either Marsha P. Johnson or Sylvia Rivera, both trans sex workers, were the ones who started the riots. Some recent evidence suggests that maybe while they were integral to the story, they weren't quite the starters of the movement. What we do know is that in the aftermath of the Stonewall riots, the Gay Liberation Front was created, and with them, the modern gay rights movement. It should be noted that many of the so-called gay rights pioneers quickly ousted Sylvia and Marsha from the movement as soon as it was suggested to them that their movement would do better without those people. From there, we move on to the 70s and Harvey Milk, the first openly gay mayor, and unfortunately, his assassination, which begat the unfortunate legal precedent of the Twinkie defense, in which his killer suggested that too many Twinkies / too much sugar led to his decision to kill Harvey. He got off on that defense, by the way. The 1980s and 90s saw the AIDS crisis, in which by the end of the late 1990s, over 1 million people had died globally, many of which were in the LGBT community. While in the 1980s, the Reagan administration was not only ignoring this crisis, but actively mocking people who had the disease. There was a national outcry from the queer community, and once more, trans women and drag queens were the ones who took up the gauntlet to fight the AIDS crisis and make Pride a part of everyday life. By 1996, under President Clinton, the Defense of Marriage Act was passed, which limited benefits received by same-sex couples married legally. It defined marriage as only being between one man and one woman. And in 2014, nearly 45 years after Stonewall, marriage equality was upheld by the Supreme Court, and thus the queer community was saved and there was no more need for Pride. Right? Right? Oh, bugger. Over the last 50 years, the queer community has made astronomical strides, but the unemployment rate for gay and trans people is astronomically high. 13% of gays and lesbians are unemployed right now, while 16% of trans people are unemployed. The national average, for context, is 9%. Add to this the rate of queer homelessness and the fact that queer people can still be denied jobs, and you realize that we still have a long ways to go. Because just this year alone, we've seen the murder of 9 trans women, all trans women of color. Homophobic attacks still continue to happen, trans people have been banned from the military, and the queer community at large has largely been maligned by this current administration, whatever 45 would like to say to the contrary. But America isn't alone in this. In fact, in many countries across the globe, being gay is a crime still punishable by death. And that all leads to my video that I was talking about previously about straight pride. The reason I wanted to make this video was to talk about why pride is necessary in the first place. It's not simply about celebrating the fact that you're gay, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's about celebrating the fact that we're here when so many people would rather we weren't. Whether our community realizes it or not, we're here because our forebears, many of them trans women of color, were fighting and were tired of being told that they weren't good enough, that who they loved and who they were was somehow wrong. All this is to say that yes, we've accomplished a lot in the last 50 years, and who's to say what we could accomplish in another 50? We've gone from a point where we were fighting for our rights so aggressively, and now it seems like we don't have to fight as much, and maybe that's created an area where we're not paying attention to what the real problems are. We have a group of people who believe sometimes that trans people have no place in this community. TERFs have come together with conservative groups to spread hatred and misinformation, and I think that's a problem we need to be discussing, because while we have made a lot of great progress, and that's something that we should celebrate, it's important that we remember where we came from and where we're going from here. I choose to believe that we can only go up from here, and that the slogan "Love Wins" actually means something. In the words of the Pride of Season 11, Nina West, go big, be kind, go West. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give me a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content and would like to support me, please feel free to consider donating to my Ko-Fi /Patreon. All of the links for that will be in the description bar below. Bye!